very good afternoon. This is News Blitz on ZTN. I'm Blessing Munatsi. Let's take a look at our top stories. 5 die on Zim roads every 24 hours. Load shedding suspends workers' government salary meeting. Harare turns Mpedzanamo into car park. And Monzora 2 contest by-elections under MDC Alliance banner. In our running story, vendors in Harare's oldest suburb, Mbare, say relocation efforts by authorities should not negatively affect their businesses. The city fathers are planning on relocating them to Mpedzanamo Flea Market and Shawasha grounds. This follows demolition of their structures by authorities this past weekend. But are these sites ready to accommodate the vendors? Our correspondent Owen Kaura is at Mpedzanamo Flea Market in Mbare. Good afternoon, Owen. What is the latest situation today?
Well, good afternoon, Blessing. Yes, indeed, I am at Mpedzanamo Flea Market here in Harare. Well, in Mbare, Zimbabwe's oldest suburb. And just like in our running story, like you mentioned yesterday, you were here yesterday, Harare Metropolitan Provincial Minister Oliver Chidau saying that vendors should be moved from the streets to Mpedzanamo. But we are here and it's still being used as a car park, as you can see here. So earlier on, I had a chance to speak to some of the vendors and they raised their concerns. Let's just take a listen.
Outside, we don't pay rent. We just sell our things. But the inside, $100 per month, is too much.
Vanhu vajaira pano, makasitoma edu ajaira pano. Saka isusu tinotoda pano. Ende Mpedzanamo mumu, kuti timupinde, tichoda vanhu vouya vachitora kuti munhu wese, vouya vomubatira nzvimbo achiisa munhu wese. Kana mada kuti panze pasatengeswa.
Kana kanzuri chiti isusu tikuda mari panze panapa, ngaiuye tivape mari. Pane kuti vanouya vachitimhanyisa, vachititorera zvinhu.
Isati naunzwisisa sesive chidiki tine chitiwo tinofanira kuwana mabasa ekuzviitira semuno muZimbabwe zvinhu zvakaoma kudai. But dambudziko riripo nderekuti zviri nani kuti vatizivise kuti vari kuuya kuzotipwanyira. Tonzwa kuti nekuda kwei vatipwanyira itisina pekupinda pacho. Nekuti havangatanga vatipwanyira satani pekushandira. Vangazotaura nhasi kuti voda kuzokuisisai pakati. Vaifanira kutanga vatisa pakati. Vozoti takakupei pekushandira sei makushanda pane dzimwe nzvimbo.
So there you go, Blessing. Yes, the vendors really want to move to the designated sites, but they are indeed raising their concerns, like you heard from some of them there. So we'll wait to hear from the ministry and the council as well. Of course, this is our running story this week, and we'll definitely keep you informed. Back to you, Blessing.
Many thanks, Owen. We did speak to Harare City Council acting spokesperson Innocent Ruwende, who had this to say.
Council is currently seized with the matter. We are deliberating on it and coming up with the work plan. There are several things that need to be attended to. For example, ablution facilities. We need to clear the ground, among other things.
On Tuesday, Minister of State for Harare Metropolitan Province Oliver Chidau said the vendors will be relocated to the 2 sites as authorities move in to control illegal vending.
May I hasten to say that we are mindful of the need to provide alternate workplaces for our people who are affected by the removal of these illegal structures. To this end, we are liaising with the city of Harare, that's why they're here, to identify new areas where traders can be relocated and have mutually beneficial working arrangements with the local authorities.
Meanwhile, a cabinet minister has revealed that some settlers near the Mbudzi roundabout along the Harare-Masvingo highway are resisting eviction to pave way for the construction of a traffic interchange. Transport and Infrastructural Development Minister Felix Mona told journalists in Harare that construction work on the interchange is set to commence next month. He said government is engaging settlers in the areas with the intention of moving them to alternative sites. Minister Mona was speaking after announcing 3 more board members of the Zinara board.
We've been engaging the stakeholders. Remember, we also need to give notices to those who are relocating, those who are located legally, so that we then give them ample time to do our evaluations. And this is what we've been doing. And as we move into February, you will start real works on the ground. So I can assure you that we are done with the other And yes, we might have some who are challenging the relocation, but at the end of the day, this is a national project which we must also move with speed in trying to manage.
Power challenges being experienced across the country caused a virtual National Joint Negotiating Council meeting that was scheduled for Wednesday morning to be cancelled. This morning, Zimbabwe Confederation of Public Sector Trade Union Secretary, that's David Zatsunga, told ZTN that the delays were caused by poor network connectivity. When asked of the outcome from the meeting, he said that it had been cancelled as a number of key members were failing to connect, mainly due to power challenges in the areas they were located.
I can confirm that the meeting could not take off because of connectivity challenges that we experienced with especially some of the key figures to the meeting. And we then agreed that maybe we do have a special arrangement to have an in-person meeting if possible.
Opposition leader Douglas Monzora will participate in the upcoming by-election under the MDC Alliance banner. The by-elections will be held on the 26th of March. On Wednesday, Monzora told journalists that their party had already submitted the names of candidates for the majority of the seats to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Nomination Court. The candidates were fielded following a meeting by the alliance parties, where it was agreed that candidates will be fielded from the party that would have lost that seat. A quota system was put in place for seats which were previously held by ZANU-PF. On whether they had deliberately chosen the name run as MDC Alliance as a way to force the Chamisa faction to rebrand and use a different name, Monzora said he is not Chamisa's keeper.
We have finalized our candidate selection in most constituencies and wards. We are confident. Yesterday, we had a meeting of the alliance partners where we agreed on who will field candidates in which ward or constituency. For the avoidance of doubt, we are going to contest this election as the MDC Alliance in terms of the composite political agreement signed on the 5th of August 2017. And those people who do not own the name can use other names. There are a plethora of names in this country. After all, they have said, and I quote them, that there is nothing in a name. So when we made the decision that we are going to use the MDC Alliance, Mr. Chamisa was not a relevant consideration.
He emphasized the need for dialogue.
Our preference for dialogue as the main strategy is born out of the fact that at key and defining moments of Zimbabwe's history, dialogue has worked to the best interests of our people. The dialogue at Lancaster House led to the ending of a grueling war of liberation and ushered independence in the first democratic elections in 1980.
Now, looking at the impact of human capital and health, the city of Harare has been hit hard by an exodus of nurses. The Zimbabwe Urban and Rural Council Nurses Workers Union claims that 60% of the city's nurses establishment had left for greener pastures, forcing the local authority to close 9 of its clinics. The union's president, Simbarashe Tafiranyika, told ZTN that some council clinics are being manned by 2 nurses per shift instead of the standard 4 to 5 nurses per shift.
For brain drain, that's why most of the nurses are going, and most of them they are going for greener pastures. Then the other thing which happened was that vanhu vanga vasinga wani salaries kumashure, so that's why vamwe vakanga vachingoresign navo vachienda to other institutions. So far they are earning above 65,000. Which is, if we convert to US dollars, black market rate is about 200 US, and the official rate, with the official rate, we are saying it's about 600 US, the official rate. Outside, when I was talking to somebody who is in the UK, he was actually saying he's earning about £2,700.
Harare City Council acting spokesperson Innocent Ruwende admitted that the local authority is battling massive brain drain. He added that the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the situation at the council clinics, some of which have been forced to close after all workers tested positive for COVID-19.
Heavily affected our health services. At one point, Warren Park Poly had 100% COVID-19 cases, so we were forced to close down the institution. Most of our staff are still affected by COVID, and some of them cannot report to work since they are on isolation. We are also struggling in numbers because our nurses are leaving for greener pastures also.
All right, let's look at education and technology. With schools and universities forced to conduct lessons virtually during the lockdown, user numbers for e-learning apps have surged in Zimbabwe. Before COVID-19 struck, Zimbabwe and the world at large believed in physical lessons. A 2017 report by the Zimbabwe Statistics Agency and the telecoms regulator Portraz indicated that only 22% of educational institutions had access to the internet. But latest 2020 data from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education shows that the figure has risen to 31%. Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education spokesperson Taungana Ndoro says e-learning is now easier to implement as most parents have embraced the digital transition.
Initially, we used to have outcries from parents about issues to do with data, issues to do with expenses of smartphones, tablets, iPads, or laptops. But that is slowly waning away as they are prioritizing the online and digital learning. They now understand that we're in a new reality where online and digital learning is the way to go, that even if there is a lockdown and schools are not closed, it does not mean that learning has to stop.
He, however, admitted that work still needs to be done in rural areas.
So we have embraced it, mainly in our urban areas where there is connectivity, there is the backbone, there is electricity, and there is access to internet, which is easier. But as you go to peri-urban and then rural and remote areas, there's still a bit of challenges here and there. But as the whole of government, we're working towards fixing that.
Meanwhile, Progressive Teachers Union of Zimbabwe's Secretary for Research, Josephat Gwejira, says not much has been done over the past 2 years.
In relation to internet penetration in schools, we do not think much has changed. The biggest beneficiaries of the internet penetration are possibly boarding schools and those trust schools. In most of the schools, which make about 95% of the institutional population, there has actually been no improvement. Most schools cannot pay. For the data because it is very expensive. We know that internet service providers are charging in US dollars, yet schools are charging fees in
Looking at the weather front, the current wet spell in Zimbabwe is set to run into the weekend. This week, Binga is reported to have recorded the most rains at 80 millimeters. Masvingo, Matabeleland South and parts of Manicaland are set to experience a cold spell in the coming days. We cross over to Meteorological Services Department Chief Forecaster James Ngoma.
We have had a bit of rainfall over the northern parts of the country because of entrance of the intertropical convergence zone, which brings us moisture from Zambia into the rest of the country. And because of this, we had meaningful falls over Binga, which recorded about 80 millimeters in a space of 24 hours. These odd storms are expected to occur still over these northern provinces for much of this week, with moisture gathering in also from the south as we get into Friday, where we're expecting convergence to occur along the main watershed, so that covers areas along our main highway from Harare through to Bulawayo. We were expecting meaningful falls over that area. Because of that, we still urge you to take due precaution, especially on the roads. We were expecting millimeters above 30 in excess in these areas. And as we get into the weekend, we're expecting that cool southeasterly to affect the southern parts of the country. That's covering Masvingo, Matabeleland South into the southern parts of Manicaland. We were expecting cloudy conditions with a bit of windy conditions as well. But for the northern half, we're expecting still those thunderstorms over much of Matabeleland North, northern parts of the Midlands, Mashonaland Central, Marsh East and Marsh West, as well as Harare Metropolitan, to still have those cloudy conditions with rain showers for much of this period. That's all for our weather update. It's back to you.
Many thanks, James. Let's move on to road carnage. At least 5 people die in road traffic accidents every 24 hours in Zimbabwe, placing the country as having the worst mortality rate in the SADC region. This is according to the Road Safety Performance Review report, which was launched in Harare on Wednesday. Presenting the report, a consultant with the Ministry of Health and Childcare, Dr. George Vera, revealed that Zimbabwe records for road traffic accidents every 15 minutes. And Harare, the Plumtree Mutare Road, Chivu, as well as urban Rusape are the national hotspots.
Instead of bringing our crash rate down to 50%, our crash rate is actually gone up. Fatality is 34%. 5 people die daily in this country. There's a crash every 15 minutes, and presumably because of the population density in the cars, Harare has the highest crash rate. But of course, we've got national hotspots like Chivu, and we are glad to see that Ministry of Health has put in a trauma training there. There's Plumtree Highway Road and there's Rusape. We actually are registered as having the worst mortality rate in the region. This is the number of deaths per 100,000 of population.
Meanwhile, the Department of Civil Protection is concerned that a number of public transport operators are operating without passenger liability insurance. This comes against a background of data showing that 50% of road accident fatalities in Zimbabwe are bus drivers and passengers. Passenger liability insurance covers passengers' death, permanent disability, medical or funeral expenses in the event of an accident involving a passenger public service vehicle. Department of Civil Protection Director Nathan Nkomo said law enforcement needs to be strengthened in order to reduce road carnage.
Working hand in glove with our civil protection organization, which is the Zimbabwe Republic Police, are coming up with measures to curb some of those criminal. It's actually criminal in nature for one to operate a public passenger vehicle without passenger insurance. The owner must actually be sent to jail for not more than 6 months. So that's very criminal, and we expect the law to take its course.
But the Traffic Safety Council of Zimbabwe says it does not make business sense for public transport operators to insure passengers. The council's acting director, Clifford Gobo, is proposing that government sets up a road accident compensation fund in order to assist accident victims and families with medical and burial expenses.
The point that we have to emphasize is that this is not adequate. And again, secondly, the other issue is that of our population, if you look at the medical aid, how many of them are on medical aid? The passenger liability is not enough. We need a cover that is adequate and sustainable. That's why in the report they have talked about the road accident fund. It will go a long way in dealing with road crashes in this country. It's a conversation that we have to undertake with, again, the transport operators, not just government coming in and then saying the level of passenger liability has been increased. Because transport operators are business people, they have to make a profit.
All right, we head to South Africa, where prosecuting authorities have added a charge of terrorism against the man accused of setting the country's parliament alight last week. The suspect is appearing in a Cape Town court to apply for bail. Zandile Mafe had made his second court appearance following his arrest a week ago for allegedly setting the parliament ablaze. A city bishop attached to the Anglican Church of Kenya has been charged with sexually assaulting a woman by touching her breasts and attempting to kiss her without her consent. Bishop Joe Waweru was charged before Kibera Senior Principal Magistrate Derek Kuto, where he denied the two criminal counts related to the assault. Cambodia's landmine-sniffing rat Magawa, who found more than 100 landmines and explosives during a 5-year career, has died at the age of 8, leaving a lasting legacy of saved lives in the Southeast Asian nation. All right, coming up next is sports news. Don't go away as we look at the prospects of the Warriors. Stay with us. Well, in our sports news on a Wednesday, we start with AFCON. After a day off yesterday, the Warriors will today start preparing for their second game against the Flames of Malawi. Zimbabwe lost 1-0 to Senegal in their opener at the Bafokeng Omnisport Stadium on Monday. They will be looking to pick maximum points against Malawi on Friday. Our correspondent, Thaddeus Manyepo, gives us an update.
Warriors coach Norman Mapezi yesterday gave the players who had 90 minutes against Senegal on Monday a day off, with those who did not play for the entire 90 minutes having had some jogs at the training pitch. Every player is in good spirit. They have good health, including Knowledge Msono, who was stretched off with 3 minutes to play on Monday, as well as Kunda Ibenyu, who was also stretchered off. We are staying at the same hotel with Malawi. We have just gone out to have their own training session. Well, after that, at 2 p.m., the Zimbabwe Warriors will also have their PCR test done.
Zimbabwe junior women's hockey team coach Tendai Mareza says they are geared up for the rescheduled World Cup set for South Africa in April. Mareza spoke to our correspondent Ntando Nsigane.
For this tournament, and we're looking forward to it. In terms of preparations, we never stopped training. We kept on training because we knew the FIH was going to put out the new date. So we've kept on training. The girls are excited. We're looking forward to it. And I just want to thank all the sponsors that came through to support us, and I would also like to thank the Ministry of Sports and the SRC for supporting us, and financially for supporting us and all. So thank you very much, and let's support these girls. Looking forward to it, and we'll see the other teams in April.
Okay, let's move on to cricket. Zimbabwe ODI captain Craig Irvin is set to reach the 100 ODI cap milestone. If he plays in the first ODI against Sri Lanka on Sunday, Irvin will become the 18th Zimbabwean cricketer to play 100 ODIs. ZTN caught up with Irvin from Sri Lanka.
Yeah, look, firstly, to reach that milestone of 100 ODIs is a huge privilege and an honor for me, and probably a goal that I set myself a while back. The last sort of year and a bit, I've probably only played a handful of ODIs. So, you sometimes take it for granted that you're going to get there, but it's never always a guarantee. So I'm really excited for it and looking forward to it as well. With regards to being in Sri Lanka and the tour, we're all looking forward to it. We're all looking forward to playing a bit of cricket. being in different conditions presents a different challenge for us as well. So I think the guys have had a few days to recover from the long journey over. So I'm sure guys, when you get out of isolation tomorrow and head off to practice at Palakele, guys will be ready to go and guys have lots of energy to burn.
Meanwhile, the Zimbabwe under-19 cricket team lost their second and final warm-up match to defending champions, that's Bangladesh, by 155 runs under the Duckworth-Lewis system yesterday. Zimbabwe will now prepare for their first World Cup group stage match against Afghanistan. That's on the 16th of January in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, still in cricket and some Zimbabwe local cricket action this time. Lions, Health Eagles and Mountaineers are playing for a place in the Pro 50 Championship. That's a match at Harare Sports Club today. The two teams will play again on Friday at the same venue. You can follow that match on our social media platforms. Well, we end on a business note today. In some news that's coming up, the Zimbabwe gold deliveries jumped 55% to 29.6 tons, up from 19 tons produced in 2020. This is according to the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Primary producers delivering 18.4 tons, while output from small-scale producers amounted to 11.1 tons. And our business correspondent Kudachi Deme gives us more.
The Reserve Bank's announcement that gold output has gone up by 55% is a genuine reflection of what happens on the ground when you have good policy in place. Throughout last year, we saw that performance from the small-scale producers had really improved compared to over the years when the Reserve Bank introduced its gold incentive scheme. So going forward, I think it will be prudent for the authorities to look at capacitating our small-scale miners and to put in more such policies. And it is also a reflection on how much the authorities have tried to rein in all the leakages and outflows of gold and illegal sales of gold deliveries.
Kuda, that golden note brings News Blitz to a close for today. That's all we have for you today. Stay connected with us on our Twitter. It's at ZTN News. YouTube, it's at ZTN. Our website, ztn.co.zw. Thanks for watching. World in 5 is coming up next.